Hello and welcome to my video, lesson 4.2, solve by factoring quadratics. Or generally speaking, this topic is called quadratics and we're solving these quadratics by factoring. So factoring as per normal. So if you don't remember, just a reminder, start with your greatest common factor. Okay, so GCF. Then take a look to see if there's a difference of squares. Okay, and then finally take a look to see if you can do PSA 1 or PSA 2. So let's take a look at these examples here, these questions, and see if we can factor these out in order to solve for 0. So in the last topic, we talked about how we can solve these by graphing. So if we take this and go y equals this whole thing, and then we use our calculator to find the zeros. That's the same thing as writing the x-intercept, right? Intercept. Then we will get the solutions to that equation. Now what we're doing is we're doing it by hand without a graphing calculator. So what does that look like? Well, what we're going to do is we have to make sure that it equals 0. So just like before, make sure the other side equals 0. And then we're going to factor like this. And oftentimes this is going to look like PSA. So what that means is we look at our first number here, or I guess our last number. Wait a second, did I put an X there? Ha! Bad job, Mr. Drager. There you go. Look at this number here. And so PSA is product, sum, and then an answer. Okay, so the product is that last number. So we're asking what two numbers multiply to get that. And usually I start in the middle, so 3 and 2. Okay, and then I ask myself the next part, which is, do those two numbers add up to get 7? No, they get 5 or 1, depending if we're subtracting or adding. So no, it does not work. Okay, let's try two other numbers. Let's go with let's go with 6 and 1. And yes, they'll add up to 7, but it's a negative 7, so let's make both of those negative. And yes, that works out. So that's product sum. And then answer is, well, here, I guess I could go like this. Sum. Okay, and then answer is that we're just going to take what we got as our factors and we're going to flip the sign and put them down. So if I want to be a little bit more specific, I'm going x minus 6 equals 0, and I'm going x minus 1 equals 0. Then I take the 6, I move it over the equal sign, so it's positive 6. I take the 1, I move it over the equal sign, so it's positive 1. And then I write it like this. X equals 1, comma 6. And usually we don't write this stuff in here because it's kind of, after you get used to it, it becomes kind of normal and natural. But just be aware of it. Let's take a look at this next one here. So let's try to solve this. Okay, so again, one of the two sides is 0. We just moved it over to the other side. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Equals 0. Okay, now what we're going to do is set it up. X, X. And then our first part is product. What two numbers multiply to get 18? 3 and 6. And 2 and 9. Nothing else. So I'm going to go with 3 and 6. They're closer to our middle numbers. And then can they sum to get the other part? Sum to get this? Yes, if they're subtracting. So let's make sure that that works out. So we have to have a positive 6, negative 3. And if that multiplies, yes, it works. So product, sum, and then our answer is, usually we just go straight to here, which is negative 6, comma 3. flip the sign for both of those. All right, and our last one here, you're just going to notice that we don't have a 0, so we have to move it over and get ourselves a 0. So if we move that over, it's going to be adding 25. So how do we move it over? Well, we go plus 25 here, plus 25 here. Negative and positive, the same number, they cancel or they go to 0. And so we get 25 on this side and we get 0 on this side. All right, so now we set up our PSA method, x, and we ask ourselves, what two numbers multiply to get 25? And we're going to try 5 and 5. And do they add to get 10? Yes, if they're both positive, they add to get 10. Okay, and then finally, our solution is x equals a -5. And because they're both the same, we just have one solution. All right, so that's pretty much it. The only thing that you might see is you might see like a 2x squared plus let me just make this work out. Plus 3, 6, 7. Okay, you might see a more complicated question like this, in which case you have to use PSA2 method, which is quite difficult for a lot of people. Start with the product of this, and usually it's going to be a prime number, so it's really easy to notice that it's just two numbers like that, so 2 and 1. And then you can keep going with your product sum answer thing, except you have to be a little bit more careful. So two numbers that multiply to get 3, so it's going to be 1 and 3. And just the question is it 1 and 3 or is it 3 and 1, right? We don't know, and that is going to make a difference here because it's asymmetrical. And so now we need to make sure that our sum gets us our 7, but it's going to be the sum of when we're multiplying as well as doubling whatever number this is. So if we put a 1 here and a 3 here, that would get us 3, 4, 5x, which is no good. So let's try putting the 3 here and the 1 here. And now if we multiply it out, it would get you to the 7x. So you just have to double check your answers. So if you have something like this, the only difference for the answer part is that you're going to have -3, and then you're going to have the -1 over 2. So from here, it's -1 over 2. So what does that kind of look like? Well, 2x plus 1 equals 0. We move the 1 over, so then we have 2x equals -1. Then we move the 2 over, we have x equals -1/2. So this number is always the bottom of the denominator. This number is always the top. This is always flipped. So if you can remember that, then you can just go straight to this. If not, use the bottom method here to solve for it. All right. I hope this video helps you guys understand how to solve quadratics by factoring a little bit better. Good luck.